On behalf of the pastors, the staff, and everyone, we want to welcome you here to St. Joan of Arc, wherever you are on your journey. This morning we're excited to welcome Angela Denker to share her story with us. Angela is the author of the book Red State Christians, Understanding the Voters Who Elected Donald Trump. We'll talk a little bit about that. She's also a Lutheran pastor and a veteran journalist who has written for Sports Illustrated, The Washington Post, Christian Century, Sojourners, and Living Lutheran. She has pastored congregations in Las Vegas, Chicago, Orange County, California, and the Twin Cities. She currently serves as part-time pastor of Grace Lutheran Church in Broughton, Minnesota. So to write Red State Christians, Angela spent 2018 traveling across America to interview Christians and Christian leaders in red states and counties. While spending time with the people in her book and her own loved ones living in red states and counties, she found surprise and warning, as well as opportunity and hope. And in retelling those stories, she hopes to build empathy and dialogue without shying away from telling hard truths. But that's just it's really kind of just a teaser, because we're actually going to be hosting a separate discussion with Angela specifically about her book later this year. So please stay tuned for future information about that upcoming dialogue. But today Angela's going to be focusing on her own journey and on the call Jesus issued to the disciples and what he issued to us today. So with that, I'd like to welcome Angela.
Good morning. I have to say now that this is my second service here at St. Joan of Arc, and I've been living back in the Twin Cities since May of 2017. And I kept hearing from friends and family, my aunt and uncle go here, oh, you have to come to St. Joan of Arc, you have to come. And I finally got a Sunday off to come out here, and I just loved my first service. So I'm so grateful to be here, and beautiful music. And so, as I mentioned at the first service, I am the daughter of a Lutheran mother, the granddaughter of a German Lutheran pastor, and I am the daughter of a Catholic father who's here today at this service. They clapped for that at the last service. Yeah. But I have to add on to say, too, I didn't mention this last service, that I married a man who's from a different branch of Lutherans than my family was, but also German. So we have three strands of opposing people in Germany who have come together in my own children. So I guess that's a sign of grace, I'm not sure. But I also appreciate your grace and Father Jim's grace in sharing with me this opportunity to speak here this morning and to learn from each other and to really embrace this idea that you'll hear about in the gospel this morning, that God calls each one of us. And in the midst of that calling, in the sense of vocation and purpose that we all are called to in our daily lives, what you are called to is not to change who you are, not to give up or to be different than the way that God has created you to be, but instead to use those very gifts that God has given you in creation, the promises you received at your baptism, to follow God and to tell the story of the gospel in your daily life. And so I just want to spend a few minutes before Mass this morning sharing with you what that has looked like in my life. So I grew up nearby in Maple Grove in the Twin Cities. Growing up, told everybody that I was going to be the first female Major League Baseball player. Unfortunately, that didn't quite work out for me, so here I am. But I did maybe the next best thing. I went to the University of Missouri, studied journalism, and initially I was interested in studying political writing, but when I went to go and sign up for the newspaper beats at the school paper, they said, you know, you don't have a car, you only have a bike. And so we're going to put you on the sports beat so you can bicycle to all the different sporting events. So because of that initial opportunity, and I was a 3-sport athlete in high school, I had the opportunity to cover at that time Big 12 football. I covered the 2005 NCAA Final Four. Ended up briefly interning on the sports desk here at the Minneapolis Star-Tribune. So covered the Vikings, covered the Twins, all kinds of different athletic opportunities. Ended up then in 2009, while working for a newspaper in Florida, covering the 2009 Super Bowl. And I remember this is a part of my story where I started to feel a little bit of a turn in where God was calling me, in the same way that Jesus called the disciples that we'll read about in the gospel this morning. But as a journalist, I had been following God's call to me to share the truth, and to share the truth in the words of the people whose stories I was telling. And so what I started to notice is that as I was telling the stories of these athletes and these coaches, a lot of their stories had a lot to do with God, with their own journeys of faith. And I realized that being a secular journalist, I had to kind of sneak Jesus into the story. Now, I couldn't explicitly share how important the gospel was in so many of these people's lives. And so I remember riding the media bus back after the Super Bowl in 2009, after seeing a halftime show with Bruce Springsteen, which is pretty awesome. This incredible mountaintop experience as a journalist, and yet still feeling this nagging calling from God that I was to use these gifts that I had honed as a journalist, the gifts of empathy, of listening to people, of telling people stories, of seeking truth, that I was being called to use those gifts in an explicit way to tell the truth about Jesus and about God. And so that led me here to the Twin Cities, to Luther Seminary, became ordained as a Lutheran pastor. And I remember when I was telling my parents about this decision, my dad, who was an athlete himself, I remember him kind of looking at me, I'm thinking, okay, vow of poverty, vow of chastity, male, this is not adding up for me. How are you going to do this? And so what I've learned too is that I'm not a priest. I don't have the gifts that Father Jim does have. I could never serve in that way. But I have been gifted with an opportunity to do ministry in a different way that God has called me to do. So I ended up serving internship in Las Vegas at a church where we had a Sunday night service that celebrated the country western gospel with the honky-tonk angels. And I just continued to, wherever I went, learn that what God was saying to me in my life, and I think what God is saying to all of us today, is that you are called to use the skills you already have to follow Jesus first, and then to watch and see what miracles follow. So the miracles that followed in my life were getting married, having 2 little boys, Jacob, who's 7, Joshua, who's 4, serving Lutheran congregations outside Chicago, and then also going to Southern California, to Orange County, to the birthplace of Richard Nixon, to a church located right next door to the Nixon Presidential Library, and serving at that church during the 2016 presidential election, and watching the ways in which this Southern California, Orange County, conservative, very evangelical Christian community sort of was witness to so much of the political division and also some of the twisting of the gospel in order to support America, in order to support power and money and celebrity. And I watched all these things happening with the eyes of a journalist, with the eyes of a pastor, and also with the eyes of a person in a family that is politically divided itself. And so again, at another great time in my life, in a great place, just like on that Super Bowl bus, I felt another call from God, this time on the beach, in Laguna Beach. And God said, okay, we're not going to stay here. And so I ended up having the opportunity to come back here to the Twin Cities where I grew up. My husband is an engineer, so he had a couple of job opportunities in Minneapolis. And I felt this calling to continue to use these same skills I had in writing, in reporting, in seeking the truth, adding in the theological training and the pastoral training that I'd received in seminary and as a pastor, and to use those skills to publicly tell the truth about this collision course between American Christianity and American politics, and what was happening to the story of Jesus in the midst of that. So ultimately, after writing a few articles for the Washington Post, had the opportunity to write this book called Red State Christians, to interview people, to tell their stories, to build opportunities for dialogue and hope, while at the same time telling hard truths about where the church has lost the story of Jesus, where we've lost our drive for forgiveness and justice in order for the church to seek power and control. And so I say all that today knowing that God is still working within me to continue to use those gifts, still working within me to put me in places I didn't expect, like here. This week I just got back from North Carolina and speaking to a conservative Christian college there, and really using the opportunity that God has given me with these skills that worked as a sports writer to now apply those same skills to following Jesus at a time in America where maybe it's even gotten more difficult. So I thank you for the hope that you give me this morning, that doing that is still possible, and the hope that there are so many American Christians who want to do the same things I want to do, and who are searching for that same truth from God in our lives and in places like this. Will you please join me in prayer? God, this morning as we prepare for worship, I thank you for your grace, for the opportunity, God, that you give each one of us to serve your kingdom in ways that we wouldn't always expect. I pray, God, for each person here that they might see the working of the Holy Spirit in their own lives and their own gifts, and that, God, we might share those gifts with one another to seek to do your will, and not our own will, not the larger American church's will, but, God, the will that you have for our world.